My first cap in San Jose.
Okay. Well, I wasn't there, Charlie.
What?
No.
Yes, you played the match.
Oh, that's right. I played in the game. That's right.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Well, I was thinking about coaching, but that's right. Yeah, that's right. That was your first, and that was Lee Win as well, right? Lee got his first cap. That was against China.
Lee and Kamani as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I was thinking of when I was a coach, but because my times as a player were so limited.
Welcome, everybody, to Extra Time, driven by Continental and MLSsoccer.com, iTunes, YouTube, wherever you get your podcast. I am David Goss, once again, carrying the reins in place of Andrew Wiebe, and I just dropped my pen, so that's what that clatter was. But we are good to go on. Why? Because I am so filled with love and joy because I have so many partners in soccer right now. I've got Matt Doyle, I've got Calen Carr, and dragged back from vacation, the one, the only, CD9, Charlie Davies.
It's nice to be here. I love it.
Is it nicer to be here or is it nicer to be on vacation in the Caribbean?
Yeah, that was nice. But I guess where times are right now, I'd rather be home.
You didn't get the option to be like, hey, do you want to quarantine in Turks and Caicos?
Yeah, but the thing with quarantining in Turks and Caicos is it's good until it's not, and you're on an island, and you got nowhere to go, and the infection's everywhere. So
that is very true. So we are glad to have you back, Charlie.
Yes,
safe at home, Chuck.
Safe and sound. Isolation.
And it's perfect that we got you back for this episode, Charlie, because we're actually going to talk about something where you and Doyle are the only two that have experience with it, which is we're going to talk about the U.S. men's national team, great moments. You two, of course, both have caps at the full national team level. Me and Calen have never had that experience. Calen, do you?
No, I was waiting for my Australia call-up that never came, but that's all right.
Hey, man, you never know. There could still be like a Southeast Asian tournament games that you get pulled into.
I got a second life in beach soccer, maybe. I don't know.
Ooh, I would love to see Calen play in the Oceania beach soccer.
No, I'm cap tied in. I'm
no?
cap tied in the Bowery Premier League men's league here. At this, once you sign up for that, you can't compete for any other.
That's for life. That is for life.
Yeah, no.
You know, it's so wild.
Which jersey?
Ask Marsch about it. He's played in it. He knows.
Chuck, which jersey is that for you? Is that 2009 Confeds Cup?
It
Behind
is.
you.
Yes.
Yeah, I figured that's the one. Yeah. With good reason.
Nice hit.
So we are going to talk about our favorite USMNT moments in history in this show. We're also going to talk about our favorite USMNT players. That's coming up. Then we're going to be followed by Perfectly Led On by Calen Carr. Jesse Marsch calling in from Austria. Later in this episode, we're going to interview him, talk about all the things he's experienced, all the things he hopes to do, and a lot more because he's a pretty good coach and has a pretty good history in U.S. soccer. And of course, we've got a full mailbag from you guys. We've already been pimping that we will be doing these Mount Rushmores and full profiles on every team. We will start that on Thursday, and I've got a little surprise for all of you guys as we'll do the draw for that first round here today, and we're going to embarrass me most likely on video, so it should be a good day for Doyle. Just keep his mood as high as I possibly can. But let's start with, we've got some MLS Classic games on YouTube. Tuesday night, we've got the 2016 MLS Classic, TFC versus Montreal, second leg of the playoffs. So you remember that first leg was the paint fiasco at Stade Olympique, and Montreal took a massive lead. Josie gets a late goal. They come back to Toronto. Montreal ready to seal their rivals, and then Toronto goes absolutely crazy and ends up in MLS Cup. So make sure you tune into that one.
I was at that game. It was awesome.
Receipts, Calen, prove it.
I've got there's a whole vlog. Susanna and I are behind the goal.
There's always a vlog.
No, I always got a camera around me. Come on, yeah. Susanna and I have a vlog of that game. We will be streaming that on our private YouTube channels and Instagram feed. So please.
Wow. So you've got primary and secondary screens for this, and of course, some of us will be in the comment section on YouTube to watch along that. Fox Sports 1, Fox Deportes, 2DN, TSN, they're all showing replays of other MLS games, former World Cup games, things like that. And then Wednesday night on the MLS YouTube channel, 8 p.m. Eastern time, we've got a throwback, November 23rd, 2003, MLS Cup, San Jose versus the Chicago Fire. So we're going to take that with you as well on YouTube, and we'll be in the comment section. And you can go to the MLSsoccer.com page to see all the other games that will be streaming over the course of this. Doyle, Calen, you guys have been in the comment section a little. Calen, I believe you did 06 MLS Cup Sunday night.
Yeah, well, they started the stream actually started in Houston versus the Galaxy, which I was not prepared for. Nobody told me about that, so I had like a mild panic attack. And then they switched the stream back to 2006 against New England, and I was like, oh, okay, this is cool. But then that went dark for a second right before penalty kicks, and I thought maybe Taylor Twellman was behind shutting down the stream.
Taylor pulled the plug.
Yeah, it was a roller coaster. We went through it though, and yeah, there was a ton of Dynamo fans in the YouTube thread along with Julian Sakovic. So it was a good time.
Including Taquito. He's a Dynamo fan, as you can see.
Hey,
Burnt orange, right?
Yeah,
There's-
yeah, it's a guy. He's gonna
So-
be biting. He's gonna be biting me throughout the show, just so everybody knows.
Joy, I was gonna say the setup looks nice. You gave me a little stick for having all the art behind me last time, but you might be in the Brooklyn Museum yourself right now. Look at that.
I honestly, I admired your setup so much, as did my lovely wife, that we sort of combined to sort of mimic your look. Though I think my artistic taste is a little bit different from yours, but that's okay. I mean, that's what makes the world go around, especially in these trying times.
And
That's what
Goss
art
has unearthed more jerseys.
I figured we were going
Incredible.
legend, so I had to go old school. I brought the Beckham 07 Galaxy, and I brought the Honduran legend of the Metro Stars. Doyle, I've got a question for you. Me and you were in the comment
42.
section. Always a good answer. Me and you were.
Yep.
That actually might be the right answer. We were in the comment section for the Beckham Red Bull
Yes.
Beckham Red Bull
Yeah.
game 2007. There is a video after, I believe it's the final goal. It cuts to the stands and a bunch of fans celebrating. You are dead center in the middle, I believe, in a white
No.
Metro Stars jersey.
Nope.
Oh, that's just
Nope.
a different looking bald dude.
Yeah.
Oh, man. I was gonna
Yeah,
ask
that-
who was on the back of your
And
jersey.
that was actually Chef Leon, my good friend Leon, who looks a lot like me, except maybe 3 or 4 inches shorter. He used to show up in lot 16A literally 8 or 10 hours before the game would start, and we would just have this massive spread. And his hobby, he used to love to cook. He still does love to cook. So he used to show up 8 or 10 hours before the game and feed literally hundreds of fans, and not just like burgers and dogs. He would go out and buy like hundreds of dollars worth of steak and like marinate it for 2 days and have side dishes and everything. I'm telling you, like the lot 16A tailgate days, like I will never forget those days, specifically for big games like that. And then in 2008, when Argentina came to, you were probably at that game, Messi, and yeah, that game was amazing. The tailgate scene was incredible, and it was all thanks to Chef Leon, who was my doppelganger. But no, I was not in the center of 101 for that one. I was off to the side, almost on, like, basically on the edges of the section.
Oh wow, Doyle couldn't get those good seats, but
Correct.
Maybe we can get Leon in to cook us.
And they
some
weren't,
food.
and they weren't seats, by the way. It's a standing. You stand and you sing for 90. You would know that if you were ever an actual supporter of a team, but you're not. You're just a talking head.
Wow.
Ooh.
Wow.
And on that note, Matt Doyle coming with some flames. We're gonna do our favorite USMNT moments and our favorite players. I'm thinking we should start with Calen Carr. Do you feel comfortable with that, Calen?
Yeah, no, I feel good. I mean, I'm just gonna take the obvious one. I know you guys will probably pick the most obscure moment in national team history and some friendly nobody's ever heard of, but it's the Donovan goal. It's the landing goal against Algeria. Of course, I mean, I think I remember some early ones, but I think just following for me, him and Beasley starting off the national team at so young, and watching them growing up. It's kind of funny because I was talking to Beasley during the around the Black History Month roundtable, and I was like, man, I remember I was watching you at like 17 in the World Cup, and I was in high school with my buddies, like eating like Hot Pockets and stuff. And then I went on to college, went and had what I thought was a pretty long MLS career. You kept playing in World Cups. I retired. You kept playing. Like I watched, like he lived like 4 lifetimes. But I think that seeing Landon score that goal, I remember I was in Chicago playing with the Fire at the time, and I was at John Thorrington's house. I was watching the game with him, I think Logan Paz, Wes Martino, Kyle Martino's brother, and we all like completely lost our mind. like everybody did. But I think at the time, especially like when you're playing pro, and Charlie, you wouldn't know this because you're on the national team, but when you're not on the national team and you're watching, you feel a little bit like oh, it's hard to be like you're rooting, but it's hard to be a massive fan or support in the like outwardly ways that a lot of supporters get to do, is because you're rooting for your friends or people you know on the team, and you always want to represent or like see your country. But yeah, I don't know, it's just a little bit of a different dynamic. But this was a time where everybody just absolutely just lost their minds, and I think we like dog each other. It was wild. It was really fun.
That was my first week at MLS. I had only been like writing an occasional column, and that week I came in to start. Like I started as an editor, so I was basically Ben Bear back in the summer of 2010, and the whole editorial and video staff for MLS Digital at the time ended up watching this game together in the boardroom on the 7th floor, and I didn't know anybody, and I'm like, this is my dream job. I have to be like super professional. And it's like Greg Lawless is there, and Sakini is there, and Simon Borg, and like all these people blast from the past, but people who have sort of moved up the ranks. I was like, I got to be cool. I got to, just make sure that, and like we're watching the game, and it's like you said, like that moment, but like everything building up to that moment was so much frustration, and we were like, this is a team that was supposed to smash out. No, I don't want to smash, but like we were supposed to get out of that group, and to be on the verge of not doing it, and then Timmy Howard collects that, I believe it was a shot, and then the quick distribution to Landon, and as soon as you see Landon in space, like my brain clicked, and like it's on. This at the very least, this is going to get a chance. And then I saw Clint was central in that channel. And I'm like, oh, this is going to end with a Clint tapping. And so I ended up getting out of my seat as Landon plays Josie through. I ended up getting out of my seat. I was sitting at the head of the freaking table. Get out of my seat and smash a glass of water all over the conference table at 425th Avenue, and it's going everywhere. And everybody, like, I thought, like, oh my, like, what have I just done? And it like turns around, everybody up, like nobody's paying attention because they're all getting out of their seats as well. And then that gets saved by Clint, and everybody deflates, and I'm like, no, Landon's, and like he comes streaking in with the one-time finish. This entire boardroom ended up in like complete delirium, surrounded by suits and journalists. It is just complete delirium as he puts that ball, and of course that iconic celebration of the corner flag.
And no celebrating in the press box, but you can do it in the boardroom. It is funny that you would like think that you would have to hold it together in front of that group, and like in particular, because anybody who's watched a game with like Sagini or Borg or Lawless in the studio knows that like this is just like normal matches. There's like mayhem going on around him. So yeah.
For me, with that exact moment, I was in France on my couch. I was there early for preseason, and Alejandro Bedoya came to visit me for my birthday. So we're there watching the game, and Bedoya is as fiery as they come. I'm kind of just like trying to play it cool, sitting on the couch, but at the same time, I'm like, I cannot believe we're in this situation. One of my teammates from my French team, Sochaux, Riyad Boudabouz, was on that Algerian team, and he had been talking to me, since the draw about how Algeria was going to go through, how they're better than the U.S., how we're not that good, yada, yada. So I had all these things going through my mind, plus the fact that I'm like, I should be there. So, yeah, you're sitting there. I'm like, I'm hoping that they can pull it through. And then the goal happens. Everyone goes crazy. We're going nuts. We're running around my apartment. And then, Josie and Mo called me in the locker room, and I remember, seeing my phone ring and, seeing it's them, and I was kind of like in shock, but at the same time, I feel like the emotion right now inside, just when I think about it, looking back at, them taking the time to give me a call and share that moment with me. And then Stu and Landon saying they did the stanky leg on the field for me. It was that's a moment that I'll never forget. And it's definitely high up on my list, but it's not one.
What's number one? It's got to be the Azteca, or is it
No,
Spain?
I can't use anything that I've been a part of.
Oh,
Yeah,
fair enough.
like that taints it.
Doyle,
So
hence why you can't use one you played in.
Oh yeah, thank you.
So for me, my moment is a 2002 World Cup with the U.S. men's national team, and it's the first game. It's the opening game against Portugal. Portugal lost in the Euros 2000 against France, the eventual champions in the semifinals. They won their group. They had England, Romania, and Germany in their group, which they topped 9 points. So they won all three. It's a big time team. It's Portugal. They have Pauleta, Rui Costa, Luis Figo. This is arguably one of the best Portuguese teams that they've had. And for the U.S. national team, after coming off a horrible '98 World Cup, you think, how good are we? Do we have a chance? Can we at least try and get out of the group? And for us to go up 3-0, I just remember being a little kid, just being like running around I think it was 2 a.m. or something. I think it was a crazy time. It was early. And I just remember just running around, being so excited. And, I had my brackets filling out, and I was just so pumped. I was all about it. And so that national team really pushed me forward. I think that really changed the whole generation.
And then their most disappointing moment was a week and a half later when they played Germany and the handball call. Handball call.
They still had, the Clint Mathis goal against was it South Korea?
Yes.
And then, that celebration, it was just the Mexico game out of the group to win 2-0. I remember Landon's diving header. It was just an epic World Cup.
Doyle? And that actually, it's going to be weird, but that Germany game, in a way, is kind of like my happiest or proudest moment, because it was the World Cup quarterfinals and it was against Germany, and the U.S. played better, and they didn't just play better by absorbing and being smart. Not that there's anything wrong with that. You play to your strengths, and the U.S. team has done that a lot, but that U.S. team on that day went out and they dominated the ball and they dominated possession, and they played with this like free flowing, kind of graceful approach to the game on the biggest stage. You played Germany in the World Cup, it is the biggest stage, especially after what had happened against Germany 4 years previous when they just got smoked. And we lost, and it sucked, and the handball sucked, but that's a little bit of karma because O'Brien had the uncalled handball against Mexico the game before that. But to see the U.S. play like that, to see Claudio Reyna, who's probably still my favorite all-time U.S. player, hit his absolute apex as a player in that game, that was it for me.
He nearly scored that half-field shot.
Yeah, but if you go back and you watch that game, the number of times he puts Landon through, the number of times he plays Hayduk or Lewis, who were the wingbacks in that game, because we played a 3-5-2, was able to get them into space to create something. Like, if you go back and you watch that game, you feel like you're watching Xavi play. And of course he had O'Brien next to him in that midfield as well, and then Pablo, who's one of the all-time underrated MLS players, all-time underrated U.S. national team players, as that three-man midfield. That team played such beautiful soccer in the most critical moment. I'm not going to say I don't care we lost. Of course I care that we lost. It was devastating to me. But, that's the U.S. national team that I want to see.
What about Oliver Kahn's save in that game on Landon?
He was amazing.
Oh, my gosh.
he was the difference. You know, he was the difference on that day, and that just shows how many things you need to go right in order to win at that level. Because if you run up against the team, like Germany sucked. They were terrible on the day. They had 5 good minutes at the end of the first half, a perfectly taken set piece, and a hot goalkeeper. Like it's just such a brutal thing, but that's the sport that we all love. And it's weird to say, but that is my fondest memory as a U.S. national team fan. And just like 2 games later in the World Cup final, Oliver Kahn choked and he gifted Brazil the first goal. And like that is the cruelness of this sport.
It's amazing when you go back and watch that game. Every time I go back and watch it, I've rewatched it a few times. I feel like the U.S. dominated more and more.
Doyle
like,
would pick a
go back and watch it, like, wow.
Yeah, right. Go ahead, David.
No, nothing. We're going to do our favorite players, but we're running out a little bit of time because we're up against an interview with Jesse Marsch. So we'll do that next show, along with our 3 Mount Rushmores. I'm going to say mine is connected, so I'm just going to say them both at the same time. It's the man that Calen Carr talked about, Run DMB, the Jitterbug, DeMarcus Beasley. And it's his goal against Mexico in 2006 World Cup qualifying. The short taking corner, played through, curls it so cleanly to that far post, and then the celebration running behind the goal. But he was that guy for me that I was a U.S. soccer fan and an MLS fan while everyone else was only, Premier League and international teams and all that. And DeMarcus was the guy you could always put up against everyone else and be like, yeah, but we created this guy. And everyone would be like, yeah, respect. Like, he's good. He's legit. He would be in the Nike ads with Ronaldinho, and everyone would be like, yeah, I've heard of that guy. It was basically just him and Landon. So I always respected Beasley, and every time I've interacted with him, he's been a legend as well. So I always appreciate that. I still want to buy his crystals, but I just got to make a little bit more money. That's my goal at the end of all of this one day. We're going to do our draw for our Mount Rushmores, but let's get to the mailbag first. And Charlie, I'm really glad you're here because we have some questions for you specifically. One being, apparently, last show, there was a kid in the background of the show, and they wanted to know, David Wright in Tennessee was asking if it was a child or Charlie asking to go for another potty break. Charlie, would you like to touch on that now that you're here to speak for yourself?
It was one of those things where I'm trying to do right by hydrating myself, okay? I want to stay healthy. And I thought I could hold off for the whole show. Probably halfway through, I got hit with the "you gotta go, you gotta release," and I tried to fight it, and then it got to a point where you gotta go now, and I was waiting for that perfect opportunity for there to be a break. It didn't come until basically the show's over, and then I had to go. So
I didn't realize Charlie would defend himself.
When you were in your athletic prime.
Yes.
Do you think you could have seen out the entire show?
Yes, but the thing is,
you're old and washed.
I've had a repaired bladder, so
yeah, that's a good point actually. Yeah,
it doesn't have the same strength it used to have.
They didn't do PT on the bladder for you.
No PT on the bladder. Very, very minimal PT on the bladder.
David Wright also added in, since you're doing classic games, I hope you have the opportunity to introduce Marco Echeverri to the current generation of fans. That was someone that I loved in my day, and I think we are very excited about that. Of course, the Classic DC United teams will be on that list. Garrett Catalana here, who says, if EA asked you to pick 3 MLS stadiums to add to FIFA 21, which ones would you choose? And he added 3 himself, but throwing it out to you guys.
Wait, say that. What's the question again?
So you have to pick 3 MLS stadiums and atmospheres to be in the next FIFA game.
Out of
Atlanta, right?
LAFC, 100%.
The Bank of California.
Yep.
I'd put Sporting in there.
Ooh, Sporting Park. Okay.
Yeah, Sporting's dope.
See, for me, when Red Bull Arena is full, it's the best when it's full. But they don't do a great job of filling it throughout the season. But if they were in the playoffs, it's full. That is the best atmosphere or one of the best atmospheres in MLF when Red Bull Arena is full.
AK, you're talking about 2014 Eastern Conference Finals? Right?
What I'm telling you right now, what an atmosphere.
Yeah.
for both squads to have their fan bases fill that stadium. And I'll never forget coming out to warm up. There was our supporters were behind our goal, and it was full. And I came out and I was like, this literally feels like a European Cup final. That's how it felt when we walked down. I was like, this is legit. This is why, like, you work so hard and play the game, because people come out and they care, and it was amazing.
So now Charlie and his washed bladder obviously know that Red Bull Arena is in FIFA 20, but maybe he hasn't gotten the newest version. Vancouver,
Yeah.
Seattle,
I don't
Atlanta.
have time to play FIFA if you didn't know.
Wait, do you have kids? Sorry, I didn't realize. Are you a father? Are you busy? Vancouver, Seattle, Atlanta, and the Galaxy are already in it. So you guys mentioned, I think, Bank of California and Sporting Park. I'll tell you the other ones that Garrett recommended were Alianza Field and Providence Park, which I think we'd all be okay to see those two in there as well. Those are pretty cool atmospheres and pretty unique places as well. We got an email here from John Andrews.
Portland's definitely up there.
Okay, that's Calen's phone.
Portland's definitely up there. When I was injured my last year, I flew to Portland just to go to the match. And I flew my mom up from Berkeley, and we just like had a beer in the crowd and watched the game, and it was a pretty cool experience. And like I think also just being situated around the city, and that you can just kind of like walk there, and it's got kind of like a Wrigley Field.
Calen, if you have a chance to see Chris Boyd play soccer live, you have to go, right? That's a once in a lifetime experience you can't pass up. So we've got Bank of California, Sporting Park, and Providence Park. John Andrews said he enjoyed our expansion talk last time. He wants to see us do a football manager season where we create each of our teams. Of course, it was Treasure Valley SC from Andrew. It was
Treasure Valley Spuds. The Treasure Valley Spuds.
The Spuds. Up the Spuds. Doyle, what was your team name? Baltimore Bohemians?
That's correct.
Okay. And I was
Charlie pick.
No, Charlie wasn't on the show.
I didn't get one of these. I mean, I used to be
Chuck,
I used to be
you
heavy in football
team,
manager.
where do you want to do it?
Charlie, we'll set you up for next show. We'll give you some time to think about this because
Manch-vegas, Manchester, New Hampshire. Let's go. Let's go.
So you just go full Euro and go Man City or Man U, or do you change it up?
What do you mean?
Like, what's your team name?
Manchester, New Hampshire.
What?
Okay, yeah, it'd be Manch-vegas.
Okay, while you think about this, Charlie,
all right,
I want to read this email out because Sean Lopez sent us an epic email in which he created his expansion team. So I'm gonna read you through it. It is CD San Joaquin out of Fresno, California, San Joaquin Valley. It is a metro area of 972,000. Entire valley is 4 million. Shirt sponsor, Sun-Made Raisins, local company. Stadium sponsor, Gallo Wines, also local. Stadium nicknamed The Gallows. Stadium location, it already exists. It's old Ratcliffe Stadium, former home, the famous West Coast Relays. Also the home stadium for Fresno City College. We're going to expand, modernize, make it 24K, that whole thing. Why Fresno? In 1987, the Fresno State soccer program set a then NCAA attendance record for D1 soccer with 12,000 people. It's a town of immigrants from all over the world who love the sport. It's definitely big enough to pack a soccer stadium. He goes very interesting on his specific coach and player selection. So head coach, he goes Fatih Terim because Fresno's signature crop is raisins and Turkey produces more raisins than any other country. So we're going to go with a Turkish vibe. His first DP then is Hakan Şangalı. His expansion draft picks are a local in Alfonso Ocampo Chavez from Merced. Villian Biev from Sacramento Republic will also join the roster. The colors, of course, will be burgundy and green, a la Fresno's most famous product wine. All he needs is $500 million and a few favors to get this thing done. What do you guys think?
Wow. You ever been to Fresno?
I assume you and Calen will know more about this than me.
I've played a bunch of games in Fresno against the Fresno Fuego in the PDL with like Kai Kamara and Sasha Kleshton and all that Orange County team. And we've gotten into some, it was kind of a derby match, actually. It was a very heated rivalry, of which we won all of them.
Calen, is Mike Chabala from Fresno?
He's from that area. Yeah, he's from Central Valley. I think Heath Pierce is also got some ties to the area as well. So, yeah, there's some good players coming out of there. I think even on the women's side, Lynn Williams with the U.S. Women's National Team is from Fresno. I believe she went to Fresno State even. Eric Kromberg, another MLS vet. He started at Fresno State.
Right?
Yeah, until he transferred to Berkeley and came to the good side. Yeah, I've played against Fresno State a number of times, but yeah, it's a good shout. I like the detail, especially finding a local raisin sponsor. The connection to Turkey seemed kind of a bit of a stretch there, but I respect the effort. I actually to pick myself. I was wondering.
Calen, you're cutting out on us, man. I think your girlfriend may be FaceTiming her mom again, which is specifically against the ETR.
Wi-Fi down.
Wi-Fi down on Calen's side. So on that note, we got way more mailbag to get into on the next show, but we also have to do our Mount Rushmores. So we have to do our draw. So this is what I put together because we're still waiting on Cam. It's a contract negotiation with Cam Wiebe to get him to do some of this draw because he doesn't show up on camera for free. I put together all the teams in a random generator. I sent you that list of teams. They all have a number. I am now going to do the at-home challenge. I'm going to attempt to juggle toilet paper for the first time in my life.
Oh, no.
I'll do it three times, and we will do the teams whose number corresponds with the amount that I juggle on each of my attempts. Charlie, do you have any advice for me before I start?
I would say don't focus on trying to hit it hard. Be gentle.
It's all about gentle.
Yeah, be relaxed. Be relaxed and gentle. Don't fight it. Don't be rigid. You'll be surprised.
Okay, I'm gonna count out loud, and when it falls, Doyle, are you in the chat? Do you see the numbers?
No.
Okay, well, maybe producer Anders can help you guys find the chat in here.
So one is Houston, 2 touches is DC United, 3 is FC Dallas, 4 is Vancouver.
We're just going to get Houston 12 times. He's not going to be able to juggle this thing.
2.
All right. Good
DC.
Start, guys. I can get you a little bit more video coverage here. All right, ready? Because everyone's missing soccer. All right.
Here we go. 1. Okay. What'd I say?
It's really easy. I didn't even have to see the other numbers. Guys, when I practiced the one time I did it, I got like 10. All right, ready?
Nobody believes that.
I'm taking 5 on that one.
I don't know. That seemed 4 to me.
Have we selected our 3 teams?
I think 4 is definitely a good shot there. I think the 5th kick, you whiffed. So I don't know if that you touched it. So
Charlie, what happened was someone wet the toilet paper right before I used it, so it was slippery.
Yeah.
So that wasn't the same toilet paper I practiced with. And you got to get your cleats the right length for the grass, and I wasn't prepared for all of that. So what are our 3 teams? We've got Houston, DC, and are we doing Vancouver or Toronto? Charlie's not giving me credit for that last touch.
No, Toronto. I'll give you credit.
Okay, so Houston, DC, and Toronto, we will do on Thursday. We will give you our full breakdowns of their rosters, where they're at, their Mount Rushmores, our favorite games in their history, all that good stuff. All right, we finished the mailbag. We've done our best U.S. soccer moments, but here is the highlight of the show, our AT&T call to the field on Extratime, and it's a long-distance call all the way to Europe. We have the coach of Red Bull Salzburg, former New York Red Bull coach, Jesse Marsch. Jesse, thanks for joining us.
Hey, guys. Thanks for having me. It's great to be here. I'm excited to talk football and MLS for sure.
Oh, so it's football. So you're officially there.
Well, it's Foosball. Germany, it's Foosball.
Okay, so now as we transition into our German portion of the show, and everyone can throw their Duolingos on if they need to, we've got a lot of questions for you, of course. It's been a little while. We loved having you on the show when you were around, and we're glad you're able to come back. Let's start with just the easy one, though. What's the differences between coaching in Europe and coaching in Major League Soccer?
I think it's cultural. Yeah, and Charlie knows a bit about this as well. When you come to clubs in Europe, there's so much history, and the fan bases, they've been passed down from generation to generation, and so you have to really understand and appreciate what the culture of the club, of the country, of the league, everything. You have to understand that, I think, in order to do the job effectively. But that for me has been a big part of the fun. You know, I've had to learn German. I coach in German now. Coming from Germany, then going to Austria, there's still a lot of differences between the two countries and leagues. So it's been a challenge, but it's also been a lot of fun.
Jesse, what's been the most difficult as part of the transition from either coaching as an assistant at Leipzig or being a head coach at Salzburg?
Well, I think the language is a big part, right? When I first came to Leipzig, I understood German, but I wouldn't say that I spoke it. And then as soon as I stepped foot into Austria, I did everything in German. So that was a big challenge. You know, and then it's just trying to get my personality, my way of leading, my way of having relationships, like trying to get that right in a new environment, and you know, while trying to understand the league and what the makeup of the club and the players in the club are. But you know, again, this is all part of the job, and it keeps you engaged. It keeps you kind of always thinking about the next step and keeps you on the edge. So that part's been a major challenge, but also been really rewarding when we've gotten things right.
I wonder for you, you didn't play in Europe, so you obviously had ideas of what it was like when you come into Leipzig, when you come into Salzburg, especially as a head coach. How much is it, I want to imprint what I do on this, and how much is it, I have to make sure that I change what I do to be the way that people are used to it here?
That's a great question, and that's a big part of what goes into every day. You know, first, yeah, I never played in Europe, but when I was a player, I took a lot of trips to visit the guys that I knew that had been on the national team or that I'd played with that were playing in different places in Europe. And then when I was with the national team as an assistant coach, I spent a lot of time traveling around and visiting our players or scouting other teams. And through that, I was introduced to what the culture is like over here. And certainly now when I've tried to apply myself into these environments, a big part of it is really understanding how things operate before you come. And I think a big mistake that some coaches make when they come from other countries is to come in and say, we're doing it my way. I'm bringing all my people. This is the way that I do things. I think it's really important to have the balance right, to make sure that I can still be uniquely myself, even in another language, but also do it in a way that fits in with the culture of the club and the culture of the people. And you know, I mean, a big part of that has been investing in myself, in my relationships with the leaders in the club, investing myself in the relationships I have with the staff, with the medical staff, and then obviously with the players. But in the end, I think that part's gone really well because the people here are so fantastic. And I've had a little bit of an edge because I'm from the Red Bull family and I'm not just a total outsider.
Your worldwide moment, of course, the speech against Liverpool at halftime. And I wonder, to me, knowing you for a few years, that sounds like natural, Jesse. That sounds like the things you would yell on an MLS sideline. I hear you rolling through academy games and everything like that, yelling similar types of things. That speech, that moment, though, had you thought going into the game that might be necessary and had practiced it and rehearsed it and thought about what you were going to say? Or was that pure natural and just off the cuff?
Yeah. So, well, first of all, there was a documentary that was being shot of our team, and so it was a 10-episode documentary. They're about a half hour each episode, and it had become pretty big here in Austria. One, because of the team being in Champions League for the first time ever, and two, because of the having a new coach, having a new team, and then you know my version of leadership in German and everything else. So we had cameras in the locker room and everywhere we went. So that was relatively normal. And then in the moment, yeah, it had nothing to do with rehearsing. It had nothing to do with knowing that the cameras are there or not. It was just in the moment doing what was necessary for our team to be successful. And I think that's a big key to being a good leader and obviously a football coach is having your finger on the pulse of the team and understanding what's necessary at every moment. That can be in training, that can be during games, with individual conversations in front of the group, video, all of it. And you have to be, I think, very authentic and true to yourself, but also selfless and understand exactly what the group needs. And at that moment, it was clear that okay, we also made a tactical adjustment in the first half that helped the game a bit, but it was clear that our group, after talking about being fearless and making sure that we were going to go to Anfield and play our best, that our first half wasn't representative of what our best was, and that we needed to ramp it up a bit and go after the game, without worrying about what the result was or what the end product would be, just to go after it and be the best version of ourselves.
When your team responds after a halftime talk like that in a positive way, the way your team performed, is that gratifying as a coach, or is that a way for the players to respect you more, understanding that this guy has our back, and now if we listen to him, we can go out there and perform at a level that we all want to be at?
Yeah, I think it's all of it, right? It's certainly gratifying, and in the end, that's my job, is to try to get the best out of all of them as individuals and then as a group. I celebrated it when it was 3-3, and maybe prematurely. I don't, I've had celebrations as a trainer before. One of them was as an assistant in the World Cup. But that moment at 3-3, one of the reasons why I celebrated with the team, because I was so proud of the guys for changing everything going into the second half. And so, yeah, I mean, the experience being here in Salzburg and the relationships I've built with the team and with the club has been incredibly gratifying. And I think that the work here has been good, and it's been a total group effort. And so in the end, that's the way I think is trainers get judged by results always. But in the end, for me, the work on the inside is always about how everybody appreciates each other and gives everything to each other. And the more that we can achieve that, I think then the more that we can be successful on the pitch.
One of the hot topics around the country right now is, can MLS become more of a selling league? Can you tell me what the process is like over there at Salzburg when you have a player like Erling Haaland and Takumi Minamino who are going to Liverpool and Dortmund and performing really well? You are essentially taking your two top players, selling them while competing for still European trophies as well as the League Cup. So how do you cope with that?
Well, I think, there's two things. The first part is that you have to have everybody working in the same direction. And so here in Salzburg, no question, from scouting to the academy to the psychologists to the nutritionists to the academy coaches to the athletic trainers to the doctors, to the sport director, to the coaches, everybody understands exactly what we are trying to achieve, how we play, what kind of players we're looking for. And then, ultimately it's my job as the first team coach to implement all the things that I know are valuable to our entire system of play as effectively as I can, and give these players the best chance to be successful. The second part is, you have to, as a coach, you have to have a mentality that you're a teacher. Right? In the end, that's what it has to be. With young players, you have to be patient and know that they're going to make mistakes. You have to encourage them to want to make mistakes and to really go after the game. And often the only way to learn is to make mistakes. And then you have to believe in young players. And so whether it was Matt Miazga when I was at New York, or Tyler Adams, or whether when I went to Leipzig, there were guys like Timo Werner or Lucas Klosterman, or now when you come here and you work with Erling Haaland or Dominic Szoboszlai or any of these young talented players, you have to have a combination of all those things, and then have a clear philosophy and style of play that you can teach them what you're trying to achieve, and give them clear goals, and then let them go, right? That's part of the fun. Sorry for interrupting, but part of the fun is when you create the foundation and the support system for these guys, then you can really just sit on the bench and watch them go for it. And that's been a big part of the fun here.
So you mentioned creating that foundation. That's a huge part of your job as first team head coach. Is it part of your job to work one-on-one with these young players to work on technique and touch, or talk them through that? Or is that the staff's job? What is maybe the head coach's role? Because that's a lot of what we see from the outside as the face of these things. What's the head coach's role in terms of bringing those young players through?
I think each head coach is a little different, and I'm a guy who's very hands-on, sometimes too hands-on. And I have to sometimes remind myself to make sure that I'm leaving plenty of room for leadership and room for roles within the coaching staff and within the player pool for leadership. But for me, for sure, it's so important that these young players have a really good relationship with me. Often, it's funny, like when I was a player, I never thought that as a coach, I would be a father figure. But the way that it works out is because you spend so much time investing in the relationship that it's natural that I'm older, so it's not quite a peer relationship where we're friends. But, and because I'm older, then the relationship winds up mirroring a little bit more of what a father would be like. But it's about investing in people and investing in their success and in their progress and their development. And the more you do that, the more you show that you care about who they are and you understand their strengths and weaknesses and you help them grow. So yeah, that's been a big part of the philosophy of who I am as a coach.
After the success of Christian Pulisic, Giovanni Reyna now, Tyler Adams, these youngsters that are American, are you hearing more from European teams, managers, sporting directors, scouts that they want to be more aggressive in signing young American talent?
Yes and no. I think that in Germany specifically, they so much believe in young players that they go out and try to find the best young players from all over the world. And obviously, different clubs have different philosophies. But you see that in Germany, it's more they invest more in young players than in other places for sure. There's still a stigma with American players, right? I think that, and clearly American coaches. But I think that, and Charlie, you're a good example of this. Like, they know that young American players are athletic, that they're fearless, that they have great mentalities, that they train hard every day, that they're eager to prove themselves, but that they're a little bit behind tactically and technically, and their overall sophistication as an all-around footballer isn't at the same level of many of the European players. Mm-hmm. And so it's even been interesting here in Salzburg because we have a lot of African players that have developed a really good sense of tactical understanding. And the American player sometimes takes a little bit longer in that process. And I think it's not that they're not smart, it's that we're so driven to do whatever it takes to be successful and to work harder and harder and harder that winds up being higher on our priority list than sometimes all of the intricacies of exactly how the game operates in a group setting. So, I mean, you may have found that in your experiences here as well.
Yeah, I completely agree with you in the sense that when I initially went over there was, oh yeah, Americans, you're fast, you're strong, you're athletic, you can compete with us definitely on that level. But can you read the game? Can you see not the second play, the third play or the fourth play, in front of you? And I think technical, as far as you saw 12-year-olds, 13-year-olds, 14-year-olds, really understanding how to play the ball, when to play the ball, what parts of your foot, the first touch, the second touch, that awareness that I think is lacking in the United States. So I think for a long time, that's still going to be the stigma until we get more and more young players over to Europe and performing at a high level.
And Charlie, I mean, it's similar here, even with this team. I mean, when we play in the Austrian league, we're young and we're talented, and we can manage the game usually because our talent is above a lot of the other teams. But then when we go and play Champions League and you play against a team like Napoli, right? So they have a lot of talent and they have a lot of experience and they're savvy, and you play against Liverpool, they know how to take a foul, they know how to slow the game down, they know how to speed it up. All these things, it's still, I wind up having now, it's levels, and so it's about trying to help every player in the whole group understand how to continue to move forward in the right way.
So you mentioned the perception of players, and Charlie, backed that up. What's the perception of a coach?
Good question. I think before I came, there was probably a lot of questions about my personality, my experience, and what would it be like to work with somebody who sort of speaks the language, doesn't have a lot of experience in Europe. But I'll be honest, once we got working together and they could see that I had a plan and that I have a way, then it was pretty easy for them, I think, to get on board and to accept me for who I am. So even in, Leipzig I'd been around Leipzig a little bit, so the players knew me and the people in the club knew me. But here it was a little bit more of an unknown. But I think in the end, the things that they would say about me, and they would call it American things often. They would say that I'm a team player and I work well with others, and that I'm engaging to the entire club and the entire group. Often here in Europe, managers come in and they have a way and they say, this is how we're doing it, and I'm doing it this way and this way and this way. And they often do that because they feel like if they don't do it their way and if they don't control as much as possible, that they're going to be, as soon as things don't go well, that they're out. Now, I think of it the exact opposite way. I think of it the more that I can engage everyone around me and create an environment where everybody is truly working together and believes in each other, then that helps isolate me from a run of bad results a bit, because they truly believe that I'm in it for the right reasons and in it to work with everybody. I don't do it for that reason, but I think that's a byproduct of being a team player. And then they say, that my American positivity is one of the things that is always present. And it's funny because I think that in the US, maybe sometimes I would be considered somebody who has, can be a little bit of a
pessimist.
Well, not a pessimist as much as they would say here, and richtig Arsch.
I don't know what that means.
Which means a big ass.
Jesse, was there a moment in particular that it kind of all clicked for you, and the questions kind of stopped being asked, as far as can you coach at this level? Can you be someone that everyone respects? Because I can remember as a player when I went to France, I think everyone was like, American coming to play in league, no chance. And the first training session, I was faced up with one of our starting center backs, isolated, did him, scored a goal, and then I think everyone was like, okay, this guy can play. And then it was a first friendly, I was able to perform well, and I think those two moments really stick out in my mind. Is everyone was like, oh, we'll accept him, he can play. Was there a moment for you as coach with Salzburg?
There's been a couple moments. When we were first starting preseason, and so in the media, the big thing was that we lost all our players, that we're bringing this coach from Leipzig who, in Salzburg, Leipzig is almost a bad word because they've taken so many of the players from here and brought them there. And they miss those players. They want to keep those players, right? But the reality is it's a selling club and a selling league, but done so in the right way. And early on, we played Feyenoord in a preseason game, and we beat them 3-0. And it was a clear win for us. And Feyenoord was coached by Jan Stam, and they had a good team, and we dominated this game. And it was played just outside of Salzburg, and a lot of Salzburg fans there. Then the first game in the league, we had a really, really good win in Rapid Vienna. And then certainly the Champions League game. But on the inside, I think it was more with the team. It was more about just when they got to know me a little bit better every day and got to see how we work together. In the end, when you're working with a team, it's about the work, right? Mm-hmm. It's about what you do with the team every day, how you get your hands dirty, how you show that you're competent and that you believe in yourself and you believe in the group. And the more that you can convey that, then the easier the job gets.
I wanted to ask you, we've asked you a lot about leadership and off the field a little bit more, but on the field, soccer is a very personal sport, and people have a belief, I think, of the way it should be played, the way they want it to be seen. And I think players show that. As a coach, you came, onto the scene after Montreal with New York Red Bulls as this high pressing, in your face team. And while you've tweaked it at times, that is the way your teams play. Is that the way you see the game as the right way to be played? Is that just the Red Bull way, or is that just something you see as an efficient way to get results?
It's the right way, baby.
What's the basis?
Well, there's a couple things. Like, one of the things, first of all, when I worked with Ali Curtis and we first came to Red Bull together, we had such a good relationship, and I think our qualities balance each other out so well. And one of the things that he coined a phrase, and he said, if you want something in life, you don't wait for it, you go out and get it. And that was the way we described our style of play. And I believe that I call it going down swinging. I would much rather go to Liverpool and lose that match 4-3, right, than sit back and try to defend for 90 minutes and maybe catch him on the counter. Like, I just enjoy this way of living. And I also believe that it breeds success. And you know, I mean, we went through this with New York. I mean, when I inherited the New York team, it was a very passive team. They would sit a little bit deeper, and then they would give the ball to Thierry Henry, and they would catch on the counter. And I had to change the whole mentality of how we thought about things and how we played. And you know, it became infectious. And it was so fun over the years to sit with Dax McCarty, to sit with Sasha Kljestan, to sit with Bradley Wright Phillips, Luis Robles, these guys who were older and had played a certain style, and who basically we had transformed the way they thought about football. And we would watch a Champions League game, and we would all sit as a team and watch it, and they would be going crazy because the other team would be sitting back and letting Barcelona have 5,000 passes, and they would be like, press them, and it becomes infectious, right? And so, yeah, this is what I believe in. And it was, you know, originally why New York Red Bulls hired me was because when I described the way that I thought about football, they could see that I was a fit. You know, it wasn't exactly the way they thought, but that there were certainly similarities. And then once I was exposed to a lot of the sophistication of the way they do things, then it just grew and grew into. And I think one of the beauties about being in the Red Bull system is there's so much freedom for each coach to use it however he wants, with whatever formation, with whatever, pressing style, or there's so many different things ways that you can apply our style of play. So yeah, it's been a fun project for sure.
So I got to bring you back here at the end to Major League Soccer, because we are an MLS podcast, of course, and
awesome.
we're all fans of Jesse Marsch, and it's easy to root for. You've got the New York Red Bull shirt on. I got to ask this question because I've been trying to hit this from a million angles, and it's hard to get an answer, and you might be the perfect person for it. Arguably the best team in MLS history was LAFC last year, and the way they played and the results they got. They did not play a high pressing style. They also didn't sit deep and counter like the U.S. national team did in 2009 and 2010. If you know what I'm getting at, you've worked under Bob, you've talked soccer with Bob your whole life. Has his philosophy of the sport changed, or is it just that LAFC was the right place for him to put in his blueprint that he's been working on for 25 years?
No, he absolutely has evolved. I mean, I could tell you stories about how we played at Princeton, right? And how he's evolved, and when he went to Chicago, and then from Chicago to New York, and then when he coached the national team, and he watched his Egypt teams play a lot, and there's the two things about Bob that are really a part of the evolution. There's the personality, which I think Bob has actually gotten more relaxed, if you can believe that.
No, I definitely see it. I do see it.
Yeah. And then also his flexibility in understanding how to use his ideas and his principles along with what his player pool is. Now, LAFC is a special project because he was able to, with John Thornton, build it from scratch. So they got to build a club under the vision of his football and find the players and pieces to fit in there correctly. But in the end, I'm sure even from what he thought his team was going to be 2 or 3 years ago to what it is now has evolved based on when you really get your hands dirty with players and understand what they're good at and what their strengths are and how to build them within a team. That's one of the things he does so well. So, I mean, he's underestimated for his intelligence and his growth over the years. I mean, and it's I learned so much from him. We're very different personalities, and that's I think the biggest thing about us that is maybe so different. But I appreciate so much the way he works, the way he thinks about things, the way he tries to grow and get better, and that part has been fun to watch from afar now, his evolution. And I spoke to him last week for an hour, and we talked about his team, football ideas, directions of things that are going with his team, what's going on here in Salzburg. So it was nice. It was really nice to catch up with him for a bit.
It was unfortunate that we didn't get that crossover, by the way.
Yeah.
Very fortunate. I want to know your long-term goals as a coach. Where do you see yourself at your pinnacle? Where are you coaching? What's your idea of the perfect situation?
Well, I mean, I think those are two different questions. First is this is totally honest. I've learned in this business, whether it was difficulties I went through in Montreal or the good times and bad times after Montreal, in New York, the most important thing is to live in the moment. right? And the more that you can do that, the more that you can focus on the things that matter and then trying to have success. And the moment that you start thinking about how good you are or how bad you are, then the directions can start to get ugly. So that my focus every day is on every day.
Okay.
Now, the perfect situation, yeah, it's always going to be about the people that you work with. And obviously that becomes even more important when the level grows. And, you know, here in Salzburg, we're at the top of the food chain, right? We have a lot of really good players. We have a lot of money, so we're able to go out and get good players. The biggest challenge here is the turnover and trying to make sure that there's continuity and that you have a long-term plan when there is no long-term plan.
Right.
But in terms of just having an environment where people truly care about each other and care about working together and trying to be successful as a unit, that's the utopia of football. And that is what is so hard to find. And that's why you see so many coaches, so many clubs that go astray because they don't have that. Right. And in the end, the more that you can create this egoless environment where everybody can just be the best version of themselves and try to commit all the way in one direction, usually that's the best way to find success.
Jesse, it's been phenomenal talking to you. We are out of time. Unfortunately, we could do this for 3.5 more hours.
Yeah, me too, man.
Thank you, man.
If none of us end up back near a field anytime soon, maybe we'll have to try and get you back on. Again, let me close you real quick because we have to be tight. My producer will get mad. Okay. So we're doing classic MLS matches on the MLS YouTube channel every night. What is your one MLS match that you want to be re-shown, that you want people to be reintroduced to?
Probably MLS Cup 1998. But it was emotional for me because I was playing against my ex-team.
Yep.
Yeah, that's probably where I'd be.
So we'll get you back on the stream for MLS Cup 98. Of course, you can watch those games on the MLS YouTube channel, 8 p.m. Eastern time. If you're not in Austria, I don't know what time zone that is if you need it. But Jesse, thanks so much for joining us, man. We're so glad to see your success, and we appreciate you taking the time.
And listen, I watch you guys a lot too, and everyone at the MLS digital headquarters. And you know, I worked there, Charlie, a long time ago, and I was one of the first guys that was there working with all the pros, right? But Charlie, you've done great work. Calen's done great work.
Thank you.
So many guys that I think have really tried to do their part in helping MLS grow, and it's really important, and I love watching you guys, so keep going.
We're only 6 years away from Charlie Davies managing a Champions League game in Europe, so
we're
looking forward to that. And on that note, make sure to live in the moment. Everyone out there, stay safe, be good. You can hit us up on social media, and you can, of course, like and subscribe on iTunes. Thanks for everyone for listening here on this Monday.